Welcome to the Upshot, multi-world disc golf podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It is Tuesday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Josh, are you looking forward to celebrating today?
I am. We don't go out on Valentine's Day. I prefer just to cook.
Same. Going out on
right?
Valentine's, it's the worst day of the year to go out to dinner, I think.
It is, without a doubt.
Just packed restaurants. The food is not really usually that good because they make like a limited menu because of how crazy it is on Valentine's Day. What are you making for dinner?
We're doing surf and turf. So we've got some steaks, some lobster, broccoli, and some little potato. So
that sounds great.
I'm excited.
I'm going to make some skirt steak with chimichurri and some roasted beets, I think. So, yeah.
Nice.
It's awesome. We got a lot to get to today. We got a big show.
Yes.
It was going to be a big show, and now it's a bigger show because we have some substantial news to discuss, and we will get to that in a moment. Really quickly, 113 million people watch the Super Bowl. What a spectacle it always is. 118 million people watch the Rihanna halftime show. It was a fantastic game, 38-35, scoring like that you don't often see in the Super Bowl. And so what'd you think, Josh?
Oh, it's one of the best Super Bowls that we've had in a long time, in my opinion, because you can have close Super Bowls, but like you said, the scoring was dynamic. It was an exciting game. And up until the last 2 minutes, really good officiating, I thought. I appreciated that they weren't too involved. I don't want to get too much into it because I think the call probably is technically, it is correct, but it's still a bummer to have such a momentous call decide. I mean, essentially decide the game.
The question I have to ask myself is, do I think that pass gets completed in the absence of the very minor hold that was in fact a hold? It's a legitimate penalty, but I don't think so. And I think it's unfortunate because it really felt like it deflated the game, and they hadn't called a single holding penalty the whole game. So to call it then in that spot with that play, it's not like it was an obvious, caused the pass to be incomplete. Pretty frustrating as a neutral. But what are you going to do? That you can't. You have to play better defense to that point. Your offense scored 35 points. And that's you should win the game. I mean, Eagles pass rush. They couldn't get a single sack the whole game. 0.
Nope.
That's not good.
Yeah, the Chiefs scored on every drive. They did not punt the ball
in the second half, right? They must have punted in the first half.
Yeah, in the second half. Yeah, in the second half. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it was just, you have to have better stops than that. I will admit, I made 2 bets with people of discs of their choice from in stock, so nothing too crazy, right? We're not talking a Sexton Firebird or something, but I made bets for the Eagles.
It looked like they were going to win most of that game.
I know. I was real bullish about my bet. Fortunately, I wasn't harassing one of them over messages like I wanted to. He's from Kansas City, so I wanted to just torture him the entire game, but I held my tongue.
It's better that way.
Yeah, it is better.
All right. Well, congrats to the Chiefs. And I also just want to leave a little congratulations. So we found out that Rihanna was pregnant during her show, pretty clearly sort of designed as a reveal as part of the halftime show. And today I am wearing, I don't know if you can really see this on the screen here on YouTube. I'm wearing my Bevel Brewery shirt. There it is. Bevel.
Oh, yep. There we go. There it is. Yep.
And so congratulations going out to Nate Doss and Valerie Jenkins, who are expecting a baby boy in July. So that's awesome. We should see them on commentary some this year, but perhaps not as much, in July and August as a little one joins the family. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely exciting.
Folks, we thought it was done. We thought it was time for the season to start. We thought that the off season was already over. It was just a holding pattern. We've got the All-Stars coming up next weekend. This weekend. In 4 days it starts. Our Thursday show will be all about the All-Star Weekend competition, and we'll get you all up to speed on everything you need to know. The format, we're going to pick our winners, all that stuff. But it is not yet over, because on Instagram yesterday, we saw this.
I've grown a lot as a player and as a person, and after a lot of thought, I've made the difficult decision to leave Team Prodigy. And I can see how this is probably pretty surprising to many of you, but I believe that change is the best way that you can grow and improve in any aspect of your life. And I feel that I'm at a point in my career where right now is the correct time for me to make that change. And lastly, I want to thank Prodigy, as you guys played a major role in my career up to this point, and I wish you guys nothing but the best. 2023 is about to be the biggest disc golf season we've ever had, and with some of the toughest competition out there, I cannot wait to get back on the Pro Tour competing again.
And that is Gannon Buhr announcing that he is leaving Prodigy. And this, by the way, is coming after Prodigy has made announcements about its 2023 team, which included Gannon Buhr. Mm-hmm. And there had been rumors that Gannon was maybe going to be on the move. And those seemed to kind of die down as there was no news. And we saw this post from Prodigy, and everything looked like it was on track for him to finish out his contract with Prodigy. But not so. He's out a year early, and we don't know where he's headed yet. We'll talk about that in a second. But Josh, this is a major moment. Now, the thing is, I think he was going to move away from Prodigy no matter what. It was going to happen now, or it was going to happen in 11 months. And I don't think it necessarily comes as any kind of shock, but it's still, this is going to change the narrative for both Prodigy and wherever he lands, because this is the most promising young player in the sport since Macbeth.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think I remember distinctly somebody saying that this was going to be a relatively quiet off season. I don't remember who that was, but I just back of my mind. I continue to hold true to the things that I said about this, which is, number one, I said don't expect nothing, and number two, I said it's not going to be as crazy as last year, which I think is still true. I don't know if I agree with you there. Yeah, I mean, between the Simon deal and then, leaving 4 days before the season starts, I don't know if it gets much crazier than that, but you're right. I mean, he is a promising young player. It's something. This is not the result of delayed contract negotiations, right? So I don't know what's going on over there, but the fact that he's out a year early, players are always going to say, they always wish their company nothing but the best, and we obviously don't know details. They're not going to divulge a lot of those details in public. It's clear though that there were a lot of going-ons behind the scenes that probably were not as amicable as the video wants it to seem. I think it's definitely going to be interesting. One note that I want to make, Charlie, you highlighted our All-Stars show that's going to be coming out on Thursday. That show was pre-recorded. We have a special guest today, so we pre-recorded our Thursday show before this news dropped.
Correct.
Which means all of our discussion about the All-Stars and our picks, where we just talk about how worried we are about Simon having a new bag, copy and paste that for Gannon Buhr on every comment we may have made. So anyway, that's not going to be mentioned at all in the upcoming show, and that's a little bit why. But definitely, I mean, this is going to change the landscape of manufacturers this season, without a doubt.
Here's an interesting fact, okay? So this has definitely been in the works. The possibility of Gannon leaving has been in the works for some time, and it was a discussion throughout the offseason. There is a law in Georgia that minors are not allowed to enter contracts. If you're under the age of 18, you cannot be legally bound to a contract, because that's just what the law says. You're not allowed to sign contracts if you're under 18. And keep in mind, Gannon Buhr, who signed his deal with Prodigy, now I don't know if his parents co-signed it or something like that, but my understanding is that Gannon signed this contract, which was therefore not legally binding. Now, we don't know yet what happened in this departure. There have been rumors of buyouts, similar to what we saw with Simon getting bought out of his contract at Discmania by MVP. At this point, there's a lot of questions yet to be answered. So, and who knows how many answers we're actually going to get. Of course, the biggest question is, where is Gannon going to land? Now, the rumors have all been pointing to Discmania throughout this offseason. There have been posts on social media about it. And we have this tweet from Drew Gibson. Take a look at this tweet right here. Drew Gibson posted back in late January, who's excited for the 2023 season? Simon to MVP, AB to Discraft, Macbeth to Euro Tour, Brody coming into his own, Gannon to Discmania, Finish Line Discs dropping 4 molds. I think 2023 is going to be the most competitive and insane year for the sport yet. Hashtag, this is the internet. Now, Drew Gibson has been taking some heat online for leaking contracts news. And, you know, he was posting about Simon's announcement and, the whole leaky leaker stuff. To be honest, I don't really care about all of this drama. But what I do want to point out, folks, is that Drew has yet to be wrong. He has not been wrong. And so take it with it what you will about what this means. A lot of people looked at this tweet and were like, oh, he's making a joke. Ha, ha, ha. Like has all these true things and then the fake thing. But was it fake? We're going to find out soon enough.
If they go to Discmania, if Gannon goes to Discmania, what does that do for Discmania? Because you've got Eagle up for renegotiation at the end of this year. You just lost Simon, but you still have Kyle Klein, who's now under contract. This will be the first of it. Is this the first or a second of a 4-year deal?
Well, they just renegotiated. I'd have to look it up on the track.
It was this year. I know it was 4 years. So let's say 4 years this year. Long-term contract. So then you've got Gannon, right? Who this is, I think, a big question for me. Gannon is so young. If I am Gannon, I don't think you want to sign a long-term deal like that. Because it means betting on yourself, right? Without a doubt. But I really feel like Gannon has not shown us the top of his potential yet. Would you be surprised if he came out and had a better season in terms of wins?
No.
He may not be as consistent, but if he won 2 Elite Series and a major...
I mean, when you look at him play, you see the signs. Yeah, if he could stay healthy, he can be one of the best players on earth. And the health factor is always a question mark, especially with players with his build.
It is.
It would be a little kind of ironic if he ended up dealing with injury issues, considering that his, the player that he looked up to growing up was Will Schusterich. I think, if I'm Gannon, I want to sign a 2 or a 3 year deal. I want to get some, have some stability over the next couple of seasons, but I also want to, at minimum, build in renegotiation periods. And that seems to be what's happening more lately. Even in these long-term deals, there are built-in periods for renegotiating the actual deal based on the market dynamics at the time, including in Macbeth's 10-year deal. So it's not like even if you commit to a long-term deal, as long as you're being smart, you're signing something that gives you the opportunity to either get out or get more money as needed. And let's keep in mind, what would be logical destinations besides Discmania? Maybe Dynamic Discs, but they already have a lot of their eggs in baskets. Mm-hmm. Latitude 64, I don't know if I see it.
I think Latitude actually is a good location. They've got the U.S. push. Gannon could be a flagship player for that team.
That's true.
So I think it's hard to see because of how many, the Discmania rumors, but we're talking about how Eagle would be a major signing for Latitude 64 if they were to pursue him in the offseason. Gannon is a cheaper Eagle.
It makes a lot of sense when you think about it, right? $1 million goes from MVP to Discmania to buy out the Simon contract, And now they have this hole in their budget. I shouldn't say hole, right? They now have a surplus of money, of marketing money that would have been spent on Simon that is not being spent. And yes, they need to think about what they're doing long-term for Eagle, but in this moment right now, they need a PR move. They have a spot on the roster, more or less, and they have an extra $1 million in the bank. And so, like, you can easily see that getting deployed to pick up Gannon Buhr, which, you know, people are going to be, if that happens, is people are going to be excited about it. We'll certainly talk about it whenever we find out. But I think the thing to understand is that this is not a, like, perfect replacement for Simon. Gannon's not there yet. Maybe as a player, he is better than Simon, even right now today. That is possible.
Right.
The thing is, Simon has a power as a marketer and an influencer that goes way beyond what Gannon brings to the table at this point. Like,
way beyond what a lot of players bring to the table.
Gannon's announcement video of leaving Prodigy is like, I'm like, dude, get yourself a ring light. Like, it's feeling a little hostage video vibes, and like, I don't know, man.
Proof. Maybe Disc Media requested proof of life as they were trying to go for negotiations.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be a big pickup for whoever gets him. And it's really savvy for Gannon to move now, coming off the USDGC win, because maybe you won't have as good of a year next year.
I couldn't agree more, because even as we talk about the hype of Gannon and about how we, you know, could definitely see him winning another major this year, the list of people who win multiple majors is a short list, and he's got his one. And it's an amazing feat, and he did it young, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins another one, but it is no given. It's not a guarantee that Gannon's going to win another major. It's getting more and more difficult to do, and has always been something of an incredibly difficult task that if you even just look, just USDGC, the number of multi-time USDGC winners, incredibly limited. And so, Gannon is coming off a historic feat. Anytime you win USDGC, it's a historic feat. And it makes a lot of sense then to take advantage of that opportunity. And I hope that he gets paid for it.
I'm sure that he's going to get paid. It's going to be interesting to see if we get any details about how much he's getting paid. I mean, I don't think he's in the $1 million range at this point, but he's probably going to get 6 figures a year. You got to think, given the potential that he has and what he's already shown you in terms of wins.
Where is the number, do you think? Is it 250K?
Feels about right.
Okay.
I mean, I guess the question is, like,
when you were talking,
I think he's a little too young and unproven for multiple seasons to feel like you can give him, 500K plus. But from a talent perspective, like, it's not out of the question that he deserves to get the big money.
When you were talking about the $1 million surplus, I was thinking if Discmania, we don't know what the buyout terms are, obviously, but if Discmania could do the buyout in 3 years for $1 million, including disc royalties, I think that would be a pretty solid deal for Discmania.
That's what it ends up being. So we got a lot to learn. Maybe that somebody's got an ace up their sleeve. So let's move on. Dylan Cease, the MLB pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, great player, of course, loves disc golf, and he has taken that love to a new level. Check out this Instagram post from Dylan. He announces that he has bought 60 acres of land in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and he says, quote, "We intend on building a legendary destination disc golf course. We recruited Paul Macbeth to design the course and are fortunate enough to have been followed by the Disc Golf Pro Tour camera crew. They taped the entire process and will be turning it into a documentary-style show. The land features ponds, creeks, elevation change, large rocks and boulders, and a large cactus sitting atop a rock. And that's why this is going to be called the Cactus Rock Disc Golf Course. Josh, what do you think about this?
Disc golf needs more destination, courses and complexes like this. I think he goes on to talk about Discraft was sponsoring the course, and so maybe I thought I heard that it's designed, and the kind of the dream is to make it complex. Pro Shop, make sure that there's opportunity for like a pro there who's doing lessons and kind of thing, right? And it's designed, and I hope that courses like this are designed, it becomes a property around which the disc golf community builds, not just a course, but everything that goes into that. It's exciting. It's exciting to see. I mean, his Instagram post has like 15,000 likes in a couple, in a week or so. And, for disc golf to have that kind of exposure, and I don't know what percentage of those are disc golfers versus just Dylan Cease followers and MLB fans, having more eyes on the sport that come from a popular and successful athlete in another sport is the best you can ask for, right? Having folks like, Andrew Zimmern.
That's it.
Zimmern. I was right. Okay. Andrew Zimmern. It's good. It's important. But there's something about having athletes from other sports that gives disc golf a legitimacy as a professional sport. And so I think that this is going to be invaluable for disc golf. I'm excited for the course. I think the property, it looks like it's going to, looks like it's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of work, but it's got a lot of potential for a really, really cool course with some feature holes. And I'm excited to see what the project looks like.
I think this is the next frontier. I've been talking about this, people putting money into a course where they are taking raw land, privately owned, and turning it into a, disc golf focused property. And it opens the door for so much in terms of developing it with spectators in mind. And I don't know if those things are being considered by Dylan. This could just be like, I want to have my personal course, and but maybe he is thinking about, I want the Pro Tour to come and compete, have a tournament here. And I think this is where we're heading. And I think it's really cool to have that being spearheaded, not by some, lawyer disc golfer who nobody knows, who's got a lot of money in the bank, but rather by a very public figure who, I agree with you, lends kind of like a credibility to the sport as, the kind of fan that he's showing himself to be. I mean, this goes beyond just liking to play some disc golf. I mean, you're like buying a lot of land and then hiring Paul McBeth to build a course on it. Is Paul McBeth like low key becoming a premier course designer? I guess I'm not quite sure. Like, what are how are the reviews on the Paul McBeth design courses at this point?
Isn't one of them about to host Worlds
the
next
Virginia
year?
course? Yeah,
Yes.
That's true.
So
the one he built on that
I guess
property
we'll see.
in Virginia is supposed to be super hard. So
that was the one. I remember that video. I think didn't Simon
Yes, he did.
beat him at that video initially? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
that was the harbinger of the amazing season that Simon was about to have. And wasn't was that the same one where he was like, "Wow, all I have to do is just not throw so crazy lines."
I think so.
And it just like totally rekindled his career and got him a $10 million contract. Amazing.
So Paul McBeth has secured two $10 million contracts.
So there you go. That's the news for this week. Coming up next, we're joined by friend of the pod and drafted podcast host, Daniel Prentice. He's a huge disc golf fan, works at a disc golf store, and I've known Prentice for years. He's going to come on. We're going to do our preseason draft as we get ready for the 2023 season to get started. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
At Pound, the quality of our gear runs deeper than the stitching. That's why we make everything right here in the US, employing highly skilled, well-paid professionals. From bomb-proof Cordura fabric to YKK zippers and recycled plastics, we source the highest quality US materials to make the most comfortable, durable pack in disc golf. Our lifetime warranty stays with the pack, not the purchaser. So regardless of how you find us, we will be here to make sure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Pound's integrity is held together with more than just thread.
We're back on the Upshot as we welcome in Daniel Prentice, longtime Ultiworld contributor and host of the Drafted podcast, where he and his co-host Preston Thompson draft all kinds of things from best serials to best Disney movies. Daniel, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me. I have to say, this is a genuine honor. As someone who was a big contributor on the Ultimate side of the site for a very long time, this is the first time I've ever been on an Ultiworld podcast that I actually listened to, so that's kind of cool.
A nice little backhanded compliment to the rest of our programming. Yeah. But no, we're glad to have you on, and I want to thank you in advance for filling in my seat while I'm away on vacation in a couple of weeks. So we appreciate that, and you'll get to be talking about the first tournament of the year, LVC. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous about that. Big shoes to fill, but I'm sure Josh will hold my hand along the way. So
appreciate it. It'll be a good time. I'm excited.
So we are doing a preseason draft. Let's lay down the ground rules before we get started. It is going to be a 10-round draft. The three of us will pick over the course of 10 rounds. We're going to be picking 5 MPO and 5 FPO players. But there is no separation in the order of the drafting. So you have to decide for yourselves, when are you going to draft for your FPO players and your MPO players. So that's going to be part of the game. That's kind of the basics of it. How is it going to be assessed? Well, obviously, we're going to decide who has the best team, or listeners will decide that. But the actual metrics that we are going to use, we will score this draft at the end of the season. And we are going to use 2 categories in which to score. We will score MPO and FPO separately. So there will be basically 4 boxes where you can score points. The first category is number of Elite Series and major wins. So you add up the wins, and we'll score them by each person's team. So let's say Dan's team has 0 wins, Josh's team has 0 wins, Charlie's team has 12 wins.
All the wins.
And in that case, I would be first, and then there will. I guess we have to come up with tiebreakers. Tiebreakers for wins will be number of Silver Series wins from your team. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, that sounds good. So I have 1 Silver Series win. Sorry, Dad. Drafting just must not be your thing.
So that's category number 1. Category number 2 is average DGPT standing finish for the players on your teams. So again, you rank the 3 teams 1, 2, 3. We'll combine all of the scores. We'll average the scores of each team in the 4 boxes: MPO wins, MPO average finish, FPO average finish, and the lowest scoring person will be determined to have won the draft. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So without further ado, we have yet to pick a draft order. I'm gonna do the spinner right now. So around it goes. Josh is red, Charlie is yellow, Daniel is blue, and it is gonna be Josh to pick first overall.
Ooh.
So we'll take Josh out of the spinner. We'll spin it again. And second pick goes to Charlie. So Daniel, you'll be picking third.
I'm fine with that. I'd rather have third than second, I think.
All right. So there we go. So without further ado, Josh, you are up first, and the time is yours.
All right. This pick is the one that I said if I got the first overall, I was taking it. no. Have you ever seen Draft Day? Not that good of a movie. It's all right, but like when he puts the pick and he says pick whoever, no matter what. I've got my piece of paper. I'm taking Kristen Tatar first overall.
Wow. She's going to give you wins. She's going to give you a lot of average finish as well. It's a strong pick. Honestly, I didn't expect you to do that, though. So now I have to think about what I'm going to do at number 2. Look, at the end of the day, I have to look at the results from last year. And I think that there's a case to be made for a couple players in this spot, but I'm going to take Ricky Wysocki. I think that the level of consistency and the fact that he's going to almost certainly get you multiple wins in a year, as we've seen for many years at this point. You know, the thing is, there's not a major separate category here. So that is a relevant factor in the decision here, because I think if you're thinking about majors as its own category, perhaps you do it a little bit differently. But I'm going to go ahead and take Ricky, who is coming off of a season where he was the most consistent player, had more wins than anybody except Simon. And yeah, I think it's a kind of an easy call.
Yeah, these are both the correct picks, in my opinion, which is unfortunate for me. But I still like the value of the 3-4 spot a lot. I am going to take the two GOATs of their era, Paul Macbeth and Paige Pierce.
Yeah, that's
hard to argue with that.
That's exactly where I thought that was going to go after.
And I will say, I don't love taking Paige. I feel like she maybe has shown slight glimpses of being in the like downswing of her peak, shall we say? But I think I still have to take her.
I think
the only risk,
a ton of wins.
Yeah,
that's the thing. The risk is that she may hurt your overall FPO finish slightly relative to someone else that you could take in that slot. Right. But the wins category is unarguable.
All right, back
Charlie.
to me. I'm just going to take Calvin. I kind of want to take Gannon, but with now that we know he's going to make a bag switch, like, does that drag a little bit on performance at the beginning of the season relative to Calvin, who's going to just has now like no contract concerns anymore, has been playing top 3 level golf for 3 or 4 seasons now. I think Gannon possibly has the higher ceiling even this year, but I'm going to take Calvin.
Man, I feel like it's kind of boring, but because I've taken Kristen, who I think shores up both categories in FPO, I need to prioritize getting somebody who can get MPO wins and can actually win on tour. Because on the MPO side, because it's going to be much more difficult to win over there, just with the level of competition and the number of competitors over there. So I am going to take Mr. Eagle McMahon. Now,
wow.
2 overall, like with someone who's got the health risks, I understand the risk here, but I think that he won Goat Hill. He played in the last 2 rounds above his rating, so he's playing well, and as long as he can stay healthy, who's going to get more wins than Eagle? Like he could win Player of the Year this year. So I'm going to take the risk on Eagle McMahon, and then my other pick, I'm going to take. Oh, this is the decision that I knew was going to be so hard. I am going to say that Gannon makes the bag switch confidently enough, and I'm going to take Gannon Buhr for the first pick of the 3rd round.
I like it.
That's exactly where I had both of these players.
Eagle in the second round?
Yeah, I didn't like map everyone out, by round, but like my tiers, there were.
Yep.
I had them both right after Calvin, so.
Okay. I kind of wish I got back-to-back picks. This is the problem with being in the second spot here.
The back-to-back picks is real nice.
The weight, though, is obviously the trade-off.
Right.
That's true. So I need to take an FPO player soon, or I'm going to get punished for it. I think I could get punished immediately, as in if I don't take Katrina Allen right now, I will not get her in the next in my next pick. So I'm going to go ahead and take. I'm going to take Katrina Allen. I'm going to take Katrina Allen. I think there's not that many. Like if you look at last year, there's just not that many FPO players who are going to get you wins. And I feel like having Katrina is like, obviously Kristen is the clear front runner, but Katrina might be a better wins player than Paige. It's possible. She looked really good last season. She finished the season really strong, and I see no reason that she's not going to continue to play great. So feel good about it.
Yeah, she feels like a lock, for top 3 in the standings. And like you said, is, one of a handful of players that can get wins. So I was definitely hoping she was going to sit past Charlie. I want to ask you guys, because you guys are more in the know than I am now. I get my information through you, and, I'm not always up to date with the pod. Do we have an update on when Val Mondahano is supposed to be back from her injury?
I haven't.
My understanding.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I think she said that she intends on being back by the Texas Swing. So LVC and All Stars were the only 2 she was intending on missing. Our speculation would be longer, but I have seen Instagram posts of her throwing already. And so the fact that it's not her brace leg, I think has proved to be a big advantage.
Yeah.
That's what her timeline was. That may still be accurate, but that's the only official information that we have.
Yeah, I remember you discussing that. I wasn't sure if there was an update on a new timeline, because that also seemed crazy early to me. And
she's going to play through it like Pat Mahomes. She doesn't care. She's getting out there.
There's no way she has the access to the medical training staff that Pat Mahomes does, right? You're going to see an Instagram.
You're going to see an Instagram selfie tomorrow of her and Pat Mahomes together on a table, both getting their ankles work done.
That would change my rankings a little bit, I think. I'm going to play it safe here and go for another player who is another player who I know is going to get me some wins and is just super consistently at the top of the FPO leaderboards, and that's Missy Gannon. And then I am going to go. Yeah,
strong players. Maybe the wins aren't going to be there though. That's the concern.
But I just like she's going to get me 1 or 2. Which at this point in FBO is kind of what you're hoping for. And then I am going to go with Chris Dickerson, who I think just shapes up to have a really strong year this year.
I was really hoping I was going to get Chris in the next round. Okay. Yeah, I feel like Chris could have a bounce back season in some ways. Not that he was bad last year, but his putting was down. I feel like that could pick back up with some focused practice this offseason.
Second year on the bag as well.
Here's my question, Dan. If you had been given the choice between Gannon and Chris, would you have chosen Chris first?
No, definitely Gannon first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the struggle that I had because I'm a little worried about the bag change, but okay, I'm glad you feel the same way.
Got a couple options here. I don't want to say too much of what I'm thinking about because I don't want to give any free ideas to anybody. It's not necessarily the world's greatest audio product. I'm going to go ahead and roll the dice and take Valerie Mondahano here. It feels a little risky, but I think it's worth the shot at it because I just feel like she has gotten better every single season that we've watched her play, and I don't think that an ankle sprain is going to be a long-term problem, especially since it's on the back foot. So,
right. Well, and I mean, now that Valerie is gone, if you look at the board, like outside Natalie Ryan, are there any Elite Series wins last season?
I don't think so because Owen didn't get one. Owen's probably the best player available at this point.
Haley King.
Haley
King had a win.
Haley King.
Yeah, can't forget about Haley King.
I'm not going to say too much.
Anyway, that good pick on Valerie though. Like I understand the risk, but there are not a lot of wins left on that board, and I think that's a strong pick then.
Yeah, the upside is extremely high.
Yeah.
Back to back for Josh.
Yeah. I knew that this right here was going to be the hardest one because I think that there are a lot of strong players, and I just got to decide now for me on the FPO side if I prioritize wins over consistency. Oh, this is tough. You know what? I'm gonna do it. All right. And it's based on average Pro Tour standing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm gonna take Ella Hansen in my 4 spot.
Wow.
For the fourth round. 7th overall. I mean, except for Own, she's next up on the list in terms of the Pro Tour standings and has an upside that I don't think that Own has. And so I'm taking Ella. And then I am going to take Own as well, actually. I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna go double FPO. I wasn't going to, but I'm gonna take the double FPO pick there.
Starting to get into the interesting territory of the value, like all the the beginning rounds aren't as interesting, I think, in some ways.
Right.
Let's see. I don't know. I'm scared to make the pick that I think I want to make.
Which division is it in?
It's in MPO.
It's an MPO? Oh, okay.
I'm going to do it. I'll take Simon.
Oh,
there he goes.
Listen, I think look at the resume that he had from last year, and look how far down we are in the draft at this point. This is round 5, and Simon's still on the board with 4 wins last year. Now, I think everyone is just ready to be he's never doing this again. There's no way that he runs it back, and I probably agree that he probably isn't going to run it back in the same level that he did last year. But he's still clearly a top 10 player. And he has the upside to get you wins, which is not something a lot of other players have. And I think there's going to be some adjustment period, but how much further was he going to drop? I just feel like I'm going to take the gamble here. He could end up being a top 5 player this year. Daniel cringe.
You guys have to do some sort of crazy deep dive on how this year happened for Simon. It's like it came out of nowhere.
It kind of did come out of nowhere.
If you look at his the few years before, it just, I mean, an awesome story, and Simon needs got to root for it. But to me, it just feels so much more likely that he kind of, especially with the bag switch, seeing him in his practice rounds on YouTube is a little rough. But yeah, the upside definitely there, Charlie.
In Simon's 2 playoff events last season, he won an MVP from the chase card and then took 51st at GMC.
I mean, I definitely am giving up a little bit of value on the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings, most likely, in order to have the upside.
He plays enough, he gets the drops, though.
But think about what he's been talking about in all of these interviews. And when I've talked to him, it's he feels more motivation now to play well than he ever has in 5 or 6 years.
That's a really good point.
And he's out there. Yeah, and I'm probably going to see some tough start to the season. But, we're still talking about somebody who is, top 15 in every single major category last year. And, while I don't think that he's going to go out there and match last year's 4 wins, I still think he could get you a couple. So we'll see.
Charlie's going to send a box of PD2s with Sharpied rims that says MVP photon on it or something.
He's going to be fine. This is the classic overreaction to the bag switch. He's going to be fine.
Okay.
All right. So I'm back to back here. I'm trying to think what my team needs more right now. Is it upside or consistency? And I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. I am going to have a little bit of a swing for the fence here, I think, with a former teammate of Simon's. I'm going to go with Kyle Klein, who I think really is kind of hitting that point where he could have a big breakout year this year. Kind of solidify himself as a guy that can go win tournaments. And then, see, this is another guy who had kind of a surprising year. Do I trust it enough to take him here? I think I do. I'm going to go Joel Freeman.
Josh is going to hope it come all the way back around.
I was hoping after I took Owen instead of Joel, I was like, is there any chance he makes it back to me? There is no chance. Were you going to take him then too?
He certainly would have been in consideration, yes.
In consideration. Yeah. Tough break.
Okay, so now we're starting to get into the territory where you have to kind of pick players you think are going to have a good year, even if they didn't have that good of a year last year. I'm kind of surprised I'm going to get the opportunity to do this right now, but I'm going to take Evelina Salonen. I think there's a really good chance that Evelina goes crazy this year and is like easy top 5. I mean, we don't even need to see that much of an improvement in order for her to be taking a big step forward as a player. So,
yeah.
The problem for me, and I this is reflected where I have Henna in my rankings as well. The number of tournaments.
You're worried about
it's just really going to hamstring you, I think, in what her ceiling can be, unless she just plays out of her mind every single weekend.
Well, keep in mind, there's an Elite Series in Europe now, along with the European Open. And yeah, I mean, I get that. I just think it's not dissimilar to what we saw from Kristen last year, and she went number 1 overall in this draft. Now, I'm not projecting Evelina to have that kind of season, but I think that she's at the right age and now focusing more on disc golf where she could really step up with just even marginal improvement in her putting. And I thought I saw some green shoots at the end of last season. So I'm playing a little riskier here, but I'd rather have Evelina than Own, I think.
So, question for you for Disc Golf Pro Tour standings: are drops for majors considered majors and Elite Series, or do you just get to it doesn't? Those are separate categories, right?
The first category is just wins. It doesn't.
No, sorry, not for our draft. For the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings,
just the standings.
When they evaluate it,
they using their criteria that they use. There's no adjustments.
That's what I'm asking about.
There's no adjustments.
So Pro Tour standings. I'm asking about their criteria.
Oh, yeah.
They carry 8 Elite Series.
I think you carry 2 majors and 8 Elite Series.
Okay, so Evelina did not drop any Elite Series last season. She did not play enough to get a drop.
That may be true. Yeah, I'd have to check.
Yeah, that's what I just checked.
Okay,
so she dropped a couple majors. I think that's the risk that I see in Daniel's analysis of the Europeans, is that they don't play enough, that if they have one really bad tournament and get 0 points from it, they risk not getting to drop that event.
Sure. I hear you.
Sorry, I was not being clear in my question.
I'm taking my chances.
All right.
Charlie is just so bullish on Evelina. I hope he's right. Evelina is so much fun to watch, easy to root for. I hope he's right. I hope she rewards him, even if it costs me this draft.
Don't think I'm right.
No, I don't.
Okay. You know what? Man, I was hard on this guy this last season, but I'm going to give him a chance. I'm giving it to Kevin Jones.
Wow.
I think this goes a little bit early, but he's only 1 year removed from having multiple Elite Series. He's got a couple of wins under his belt. He's shown that he can win. And even in his quiet season, he still finished 11th on the Pro Tour standings. He plays a lot and has good events that are enough to buoy him up and keep him at a pretty high average finish, but he also delivers upside. and that I think is just invaluable. This next pick was, I knew, again, the hard one. It's always that second one. Do I let Charlie have it? That's the question. That's the question. You're right, Charlie. It's hard when you've got like the thought process that you want to like talk out loud and
I know.
kind of explain your rationale, but you can't because you don't want to give anything away. All right. I'm going to do it. This is 50% out of spite, 50% out of the same argument. I'm going to take Henna. I think Charlie's been really bullish on her, and so I don't want him to have Henna as well. Because if we lose because Henna and Evelina pop off in her top 5, both of them, Charlie has them both. I just don't know if I could handle it. Same argument as Evelina, and it has shown, I think, higher upsides at times than Evelina, and has a ceiling that is, arguably just as high, if not higher.
Lack of forehand is the problem, but yes, she's very good.
True, but Worlds and GMC second place.
It's true.
Better track record than Evelina. So I like the value of getting her after, and anytime you get to spite Charlie is a win in my book, Josh.
All right. What am I doing here? It's like trying to figure out where the value is going to come at this point. Like, am I still hunting for wins, or are we into the territory of just looking for max value high finisher? I can't roll the dice on that. Not yet. That's a late round pick. I'm going to go... Oh, man. I think I'm going to just play it safe here. And I'm going to take Matt Oram.
Mm-hmm.
The safest of safe
picks. But the thing is about Matty-O, like, would it really surprise you if he won a couple tournaments this year? Like, this is the best player. Yes. This is the best player on tour without a win. Like, you look at his rating, you look at the times when he's been close. Like, to some extent, he's had bad luck. Mm-hmm. To some extent, he's just had bad luck to not have wins. But, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's been consistently a top 10 player on tour for year after year after year, anytime he's actually playing. He's playing more. I like it.
This feels like a great spot to get Matty-O. I would be surprised genuinely if he got any wins. I just don't think he has that Owen Scoggins dog in him that it takes to win a tournament. But just such a talented player. He's so often at the top, so he's going to get you rankings points. So I like the pick there for sure. I am going to take my last MPO player here. And that is a player who kind of similar in that he doesn't have that win just yet, but has been was pretty consistent last year and should have gotten a win. You talk about being unlucky, and I think his upside for getting a win this year is higher than Matty-O's. I'm going to say Corey Ellis.
I considered Corey.
Yeah, they were both in the same tier for me. And then I will take Kat Murch on the FPO side, a player who I think kind of people have forgotten about, but really showed like a big step up last year. So I'm excited about, her potential, maybe, probably not win a tournament this year, but get some top 3 finishes, I would say.
All right. I'm going to go pop over here and take a look at what's going on over on the old PDGA page for this player. And I honestly got to say, I like what I see. I like what I see relative to last year. I'm going to take Haley King. Haley King didn't play enough tournaments last year, and there is certainly a risk that she's going to do the same thing to me again this year. But I just went to her page, and she's signed up for LVC, Waco, Music City, Champions Cup, Jonesboro, OTB, and Des Moines. This is a good sign.
That is a good sign.
Let's be honest, if Haley plays a full tour this year, you got to feel really good about her chances to be in the top 5. tremendous upside. So like I'm definitely like playing with fire a little bit. It feels like with some of my picks, but I'm going for a team that has a lot of talent, and I'm hoping that wins out at the end.
Charlie is either finishing first or last in this.
I think that's right. I mean, you look at Haley last year, she did get the win, but she also, what did she finish, like 30th in the Pro Tour standings? Because she just didn't play.
Didn't play at all, yeah.
But, I mean, she's got to play more this year, right? Like, you can't really play less than this year. She
I hope
moved
she
last
plays
year.
more.
I think I have it's really understandable why she would play less last year. I think she will play more this year.
So I was doing the same exercise that you were. Before you even said anything, I was doing the exact same thing. And I'm going to take Isaac Robinson next.
Yep.
He had the win at Idlewild.
Contract
and then he had
year.
a pair of contract year Isaac. Doesn't have the same ring. What do we do? Like re-up Robinson?
But is he going to re-up?
I don't know. That's true. He got the win, had a couple second place finishes at the end, GMC and at the Pro Tour Championship. But here's what I am really excited to see, because Isaac didn't play a lot in the early season. Remember, he was still going to school, wanted to prioritize that. He is registered for everything, including Europe. So Isaac traveling across the pond this year, I think that shows a level of commitment out of Isaac that I want to see, that is necessary. He's lower rated, right, at 131 than I think that I would expect when I look at when I go looking at him, because I think he plays at a higher level. And so I don't know why that rating is where it's at. I haven't done quite the deep dive, but I like how much he's going to be playing this year, and a good chance to increase. All right. Do I want to round out my FPO or my MPO team? That's the question. That is the question. And this one, I had a joke that I wanted to make. You know what? I'm going to make this pick anyway, though. I don't even think it's a joke. Oh, there's two that I'm really torn between. All right. I am going to take... let me confirm one thing real fast. I want to check 2021.
Josh is going deep into the archives.
We're looking. We're going deep. We're doing it. I'm taking Nico LaCastro.
Wow.
Give him to me.
Wow.
Give him to me.
Wow. Josh is all in on Nico. Oh my gosh.
The guy gets...
He really is.
The guy gets wins and like 9th overall finish in 2021. That's not a bad
Nico would
finish.
make so much more sense on my team than Josh's team, but
Yeah.
wow.
I'm sending it. Give me the Nico.
If he plays a whole season and he hasn't had his level drop off after basically a year with not playing, I mean, yeah, it's definitely possible it's going to be, somebody who inside the top 10. I mean, it's not out of the question.
Yeah. I don't think
But
so.
I mean, it's also not out of the question that like he's on probation. Remember, Josh, any little thing and he is gone.
Hey, he got signed to the family-friendly brand. That guy, you're gonna get Nico LaCastro PDGA minis in your Happy Meals next. Like,
all right, that's a wild pick.
That was off the board completely.
If you're not having fun with it, are you even doing it right?
So here we are in the 9th round. Daniel has to take 2 FPO players. He's locked in. So I'm obviously going to take FPO here. So who do I want to take? I'm going to take a player that I'm really excited about, who finished really strong at the end of last season, and I think has, it's an upside pick for sure. And it's Holland Handley. She's making the bag switch. I think that she's got a chance to actually get a win this year too. So I'm pretty excited about Holland's potential. It feels kind of wrong that Ella went all the way up in the 4th round, and I get Holland in the 9th round. Tell me that these players are really that different from one another. I don't see that. I think that there's like a little bit too much excitement about Ella's distance throwing ability. And, remember, Holland Hanley just threw in an albatross last season, folks. I really like the potential that she has. There's a couple other players on the board who finished ahead of her last season. Sarah Hokum, Maria Oliva. But I just think Hokum's going in the wrong direction right now, and Holland's going up, up, up.
Yeah, I would have taken Holland for sure if she were still there. I am going to take Sarah Hokum.
I think that makes sense at this point.
I agree, Charlie. Completely. I don't think it's arguable at this point. I mean, she's not really pushing for many wins, but just a consistent player still. And I believe does have an Elite Series win already. So. For my Silver Series, sorry, yeah.
A little tiebreaker.
My tiebreaker potential.
You do get the lock, and she's
high.
at the top of the DGPT standings right now.
Yeah. So I big steal to get Sarah Hokum. And now I don't really get any steals here. Both of you said that you did basically no prep for this. So I was like, I'm just going to be getting all the players I want. But you've both drafted really well. So
come on. We don't have to do a lot of special prep. We do this show twice a week.
That's true. That is true. That's fair. I have a few players here. I am going to go out on a limb. I'm going to take Alexis Mondahano here with my last pick.
Okay.
As another player that's like,
number
young
one pick in the All-Star draft.
That was wild. But a player that I think has flashed that potential and feels like one of those players. Right now, I think the best thing I can do is take a player that could pop this year, and Alexis feels like as good a pick as any for that.
Okay, so I need to pick an MPO player in my last and final spot here in the 10th round. Oh man, so I got a lot of choices here, right? So James Conrad is still on the board. That's the highest player from last year. Chris Clemens, Ezra Aderhold, Aaron Gossage, Adam Hammis, Drew Gibson, who had a win. Oh, man. I feel like a better season from Adam Hammis seems like a possibility. Mm-hmm. Is Aaron Gossage going to continue his ascent as a player? I like the opportunities there. But I got to be really honest. I'm super drawn. There's a couple players further down the board that I'm really kind of excited about. I'm afraid to pick one of the Europeans. I kind of want to take Nicholas Antila, but even more so than Evelina. He did not play very much last year, so I don't quite know.
Finished so far down the board because of that.
Yeah. I don't quite know. Let me see. Let me check over on the PDGA page and see what's going on with Nicholas. It is looking pretty promising. But then I see him playing a bunch of Euro Tour tournaments in June and July, which means he's going to miss a bunch of stuff over in the US for that. Yeah, I don't think I can do it. I have a high risk, high reward team. Let's close it out. Anthony Barella is my final pick.
I knew it. I even thought about typing it down in the document because I was like, there's James Conrad on the board. Charlie is going to take Anthony Barella.
And look, JC is the safer pick for sure, but go ahead, Daniel. You got something to say?
I think it's crazy that Conrad did not get picked. I think it's crazy. Disrespectful, in all honesty.
I got Matt Oram, who was just a better version of James Conrad last year. Yes, James has showed the ability to win the big ones, but there's not that much of a benefit to do that in the format that we have. If he wins one major, that's awesome. And probably would justify having him be picked. I'm ultra bullish on Anthony Barella. Perhaps wrongly so, but I think we started to see last year that he can put it together. He's just got to not throw it out of bounds.
That's the big thing.
Good luck with that.
It.
Yeah, thank you. all I need is for each of the players that I chose to fix their one fatal flaw, and then my team's going to be unbelievable. All right, Josh, last pick. Who you got? You got to take FPO, right?
FPO, I do, yes. I am going to take a player who actually, if you look at her rating, is rated... If you just went by rating in our draft and only took the top 15 rated FPO players, she would be in that category. She's rated the 14th highest in the world right now. And, with the uncertainty around Natalie Ryan's tour, meaning that would kind of bump Macy Veladiaz up to 13th. I'm taking Macy Veladiaz. She's registered for a lot of tournaments early season that she has not played in the past. She's a young player who I don't think we've fully seen the ceiling yet, who's also won silver events before. And so I think that it's an opportunity for someone who could possibly win, but is obviously high rated enough that she's going to continue to play consistently. And I'm hoping with a couple extra opportunities to drop tournaments, we may find her sliding up in the ratings. So Macy Veladiaz, final pick of the draft.
I like it. Let's talk about some of the undrafted players here. We can start an FPO since you just picked Macy Veladiaz to close it out. Undrafted, Maria Oliva, Emily Beach, Jessica Weiss, Jen Allen, Lisa Fakis, Kona Panis. No one voting on the bounce back.
I thought about it, but I thought if I did Kona and Nico and then lost, I would just look like a fool. So I had my one spicy take.
Yeah. I mean, the upside definitely there, though, for Kona. I considered her for sure.
On the MPO side, obviously James Conrad's going to be the number one. I mean, it really is surprising they didn't end up getting picked. To be clear, I thought a lot about whether I should take AB or James Conrad. And I just feel like Anthony Barella is a player who I think actually could get more wins in an average tour a year than James Conrad. If his development continues, it's easy to forget that he's still like just out of college, basically. Like he's super young and has unbelievable throwing talent. So it's a risky play, but also Chris Clemens doesn't get picked, Ezra Aderhold, Aaron Gossage, Adam Hammis, Drew Gibson, Bradley Williams. A lot of interesting players there. Who's the biggest surprise besides Conrad?
I'm not surprised by any of them. The only other player I had on my board, I think all three of us did this a little bit, but maybe we're too reliant on 2022 results and not maybe, previous years. Like Josh even brought up 2021 and Charlie was kind of dismissive of it. Adam Hammis, I think, finished fifth?
I thought a lot about Adam Hammis
in the standings in 2021. I think it would be very easy to see how you just chalk last year up to just a down year for whatever reason, and he bounces back to some of the closer to the highs that we've seen him in the past. So I had him on my list.
And none of the Europeans either. It does seem plausible to me that we could see a top 10 European MPO player this year.
I think that our picks really reflect that when you look at the system, one or two places difference is not going to really move your average nearly as much, but one or two wins will. And so the ability to get some of those wins, I think, is average finish is dependent on so many things between scheduling, injury, the drops and how that falls. A lot of factors go into kind of that average that makes it a little bit harder to really nail down, well, who's going to finish higher, James Conrad or Corey Ellis, right? Like that's a really difficult thing to suss out there. So I really think it's about picking who has the upside, but also plays well enough that they're not going to ruin your average. And I think that's how it's reflected largely in a lot of our picks.
That's why it's so wild you took Nico, Josh.
But I mean, you
wins.
you took Corey Ellis with your final MPO pick when James Conrad was on the board. Like, I feel like we all avoided Conrad for some reason.
Yeah, I will say if I had known that my final MPO pick was in round 7. If I had known that Conrad would not have been picked, I probably would have gone FPO and left Corey Ellis on the board and taken Conrad with my last pick.
Sure.
That for me, that's just
for a value perspective, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, We're going to look at the full teams. We're going to talk about who we think did the best in the draft, and then we'll see what happens this season. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey there, my name is Jody Avirgan, and I'm the host of a new podcast from TED called Good Sport. I've learned a ton of life lessons from playing sports, from watching sports, and from covering sports in my career as a journalist. During our first season of Good Sport, we'll look at hotbeds of talent, how a new sport like F1 can break through, how to deal with aging out of playing sports at the highest level, and lots more. Check out Good Sport wherever you listen.
Welcome back to the Upshot. Josh, Dan, Charlie's picks all in, and let's take a look at these teams. Josh has in MPO Eagle, McMahon, Gannon Buhr, Kevin Jones, Isaac Robinson, and Nicolo Castro. Charlie has Ricky, Calvin, Simon, Matteo, and Anthony Barella. And Dan has got Paul Macbeth, Chris Dickerson, Kyle Klein, Joel Freeman, and Corey Ellis. So we can kind of assess these separately. Who did the best in the MPO side of the draft?
When you read them all together, I feel like you got quite a steal there, Charlie, and had a pretty good draft. It's hard. It's so hard because, Simon, when you're trying to make the decision whether or not to pick him, it's like a little sick to your stomach. Like the new bag doesn't look quite as good. Last year felt like a kind of an anomaly in how many wins he had. But then you look back and now that the draft is done, and I'm like, man, Ricky, Calvin, and Simon are all on one team. Holy smokes! Like that's a powerhouse trio right there that you get to have. So I like your team there on the MPO side. I think it's a lot of consistency in the amount of wins. I think Dan isn't going to have anybody outside the top 10 though. And I mean,
that's your team, Prentice, is very. It seems like you're guaranteed to do well in the second category, and the question is, how many wins will you get?
Right. Yeah. I really need Chris to have that strong year that I do think he can have. And if Kyle can flash and win one tournament, that will hopefully be enough. Yeah, I think my wins are going to have to come more on my FPO side.
Josh, your team is really. I mean, you're really counting on Eagle to have a good year.
That's
am. Really what it comes down to.
And Gannon not to regress more.
Sure.
Significantly. But yeah, I have the guy who was injured all of last season and the guy who was suspended all of last season.
I cannot
buy
believe
low,
the Nico
baby.
Pick. I cannot believe it. So Josh, in my podcast, we always pick a worst pick of every draft. Charlie, it's got to be the Nico pick, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think Anthony Barella could end up looking as the worst pick. The thing about Nico is if he plays a full in 2021, he was 9th on tour.
Yep.
Yeah.
And had a win.
He had a win.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like his talent is gone. It's easy to think about it as being bad, and there is a significant risk. It's not like Nico has like changed. I'm sorry.
Right.
He hasn't. I think he'll probably be more on his best behavior, but it won't take much for him to get suspended again because he will be on probation for the entirety of the season.
Yep.
Right.
So one blow up, one thing, some problem with another player, and it's like it's in him. I mean, in some ways he does have that dog in him, but like it's like a pit bull. It's like the wrong kind of dog.
Yeah, a rabid dog.
So I think it's a risky pick, but I don't necessarily know that it's a terrible pick.
I ironically think Josh hit the nail on the head, which is that like one or two places in the standings aren't going to affect your average too much, but finishing really low will. And Nico, more than just about any player that was taken, I think, has the very obvious, and especially with Eagle, because Eagle's kind of the same way. Like I think you have to play it a little safer with your other MPO picks when you take Eagle.
That's
right.
a fair argument.
Okay, the FPO teams. Dan's got Paige Pierce, Missy Gannon, Kat Murch, Sarah Hokum, and Alexis Mondahano. Charlie's got Katrina Allen, Valerie Mondahano, Evelina Salonen, Haley King, and Holland Handley. And Josh has Kristen Tatar, Ella Hansen, Owen Scoggins, Hannah Blomroos, and Macy Vela Diaz.
I feel like
I think I got to give it to Josh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think Kristen. I mean, having KT is huge.
Oof. Yeah.
And Owen, like, you're gonna have a lot. You're gonna have guaranteed 2 really strong, high finishing players.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, will you get enough wins? Like, you need Kristen to have a monster season again, because there's not necessarily a lot of other wins coming there. But you could say the same thing about any of our teams, frankly.
Here's the one argument I do want to make, and I wanted to make it a little bit when you were talking with the Ella versus Holland argument, and you said, people are giving Ella too much credit on her distance. And don't get me wrong, like, that's a factor. But remember, Ella went 3rd Jonesboro, 3rd DDO, 2nd Masters Cup, 4th OTB Open, and then had a couple of top 10s, and then went 2nd at Preserve, and had a 4th at Idlewild. That, a track that is wooded. And so lots of just, even if she has that block in the middle that's somewhat similar, it would not shock me if she turned one of those into a win. And so I like the Ella. I'm excited about the Ella pick, actually.
What's your analysis, Dan, of the FPO teams?
Yeah, I mean, I just am such a full believer in Kristen Tatar that, if like, the crazy thing is she was so dominant last year and missed a big chunk of the season with injury.
Right.
So, like, if she comes in and is healthy this year and that doesn't happen, I mean, how much more dominant can she be? And I talked about this when I made the pick, but Paige, who I think we would probably all agree is, like, the number 2 player still, feels like she's, still very much there. Don't get me wrong. She's still very much there.
But it felt like she went the wrong direction last year.
Yeah. And I think you could easily worry that, like, maybe, she isn't prioritizing disc golf as much in her life, which is completely fair at this stage in her life. And that last year was maybe the start of, like, an indicator of her, kind of on the downswing. So yeah, I mean, just having Kristen alone, like, she was my clear number 1 pick for the whole draft. I still like my team more than Charlie's, I think. But yeah, I mean, like, Kristen could take half the wins this year by herself, and, like, that wouldn't, shock me.
Yeah, I think you could win FPO straight up because of Kristen Tatar, Josh.
Yeah.
I think the Paige Missy combo is going to be great, though. And I was hoping to get Missy in, like, the 4th or 5th round, but Missy does not get enough credit. She won the Player of the Year after she did, the Throw Pink Women's Championship. And everyone was like, whoa, that's a little overreaction. And then we all cooled on Missy. And then she still won Ledgestone. Like, she gets wins, and she's one of the most consistent players on tour. I think Missy's
It was an overreaction. She's still a really good player.
It was an overreaction. But I think
people went too far the other way.
Exactly. I think there was the pendulum swung a little bit too hard because of it. And so I like the Missy pick.
What I will say,
having Missy and Paige on the same team is huge for team chemistry for me.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you got that team chemistry.
Yeah.
I will say this about my team. While it is a little crazy on the FPO side, because I'm taking Valerie Mondahano, who just got hurt, Evelina, whose putter is questionable, Haley King, whose motivation is questionable, Holland Handley, who hasn't really proven it yet. The thing is, the only way I'm going to win in FPO is if I take high-risk plays. Because if I don't have Kristen on my team, what am I really going to do? I didn't get Kristen, I didn't get Paige.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? I can't get a guaranteed. I mean, so I get Katrina, which is good. Katrina could absolutely outperform Paige this year. Maybe she could even outperform Kristen. It's possible, but it's unlikely. And so I have to go elsewhere to look for wins. And I think I took all of my players except maybe Holland, I feel like could win. And honestly, I even really think Holland could win. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, like, decision-making factor in my picks for FPO.
I mean, if you... go ahead. Sorry, Dan.
I just really would have taken Hannah over Evelina. Charlie, I love that you have Evelina, but just
I get it.
Provable track record, I think that was a miss.
I mean, I don't... Evelina's won a major. Hannah has no major.
That's fair.
I think it's they both have strengths and weaknesses. I think that it feels like right now Henna's closer to being at that top tier than Evelina because the putting is just, it's clearly worse for Evelina. But it also feels like something that's a solvable problem. Whereas Henna has a very considerable flaw in her game, which is that she does not have a forehand. And that's a problem that Evelina does not have. Evelina is the best thrower on the planet. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's definitely risky. The one thing I'm concerned about is that I picked Simon too high. Did I pick Simon too high?
I thought
Round
so.
5? Do you take him, Josh? Whose pick was next, actually? Let me see. No, it was Dan next. Would you have taken Simon instead of Kyle and Joel?
No.
So you're low on Simon.
I am low on Simon. I'm probably lower than I should be. And like I said, I mean, it was such a fun ride last year. But also, like, his bad tournaments last year were still really bad.
Terrible.
So he's just is such a conundrum to me. And I really wouldn't be shocked if he, has 0 wins this year and has some really bad finishes again that like aren't balanced out by the wins this time.
So going back previous years, as we talked about, Dan, if you had to guess where Simon finished in 2019, would you know?
Oh, 2019, no way. That's so long ago now.
Pre-pandemic, yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Give us the facts, Josh.
Let me give you the order.
Yeah.
Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, Simon Lizotte.
There you go.
Wow. 2019 though feels just like a lifetime ago, though, doesn't it?
It does, but I think
that was the last time he was healthy, right?
Exactly. That's because then pandemic and injury kept him from ever playing again like he did in 2019. And last season was the first time, and so it feels like an anomaly. But the anomaly is over. The anomaly is actually his injury, right? That's the anomaly. Is the 2 seasons he didn't get to play.
The anomaly is 2021.
Yeah.
I think Simon. I would also bet on a regression. But the thing about Simon is that he has win upside that other players simply don't. Mm-hmm. That's why I took him.
If you had not. If for some reason you didn't take him in 5 or 6, Charlie, I would have taken him in 6 in the 6th round. So I think you got him in the right spot.
You took Kevin Jones and Henna in those 2 spots, and I think you just simply would have to take Simon over Kevin.
I completely agree.
Kevin is, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. So let us know, folks. Send in your emails, vote on in our Discord if you're a subscriber. Who had the best draft? We appreciate the ability to just basically completely steal Daniel's entire podcast concept for today's show. Yeah. But make sure that you check out the Drafted podcast. It's anywhere you get your podcasts. And I was on recently. You could go hear me just dominate in the hotel breakfast draft category.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you did not win that poll, so.
Yeah, but come on. I mean,
Charlie,
dominate is a strong word.
What's your number 1 overall pick, Charlie, in the hotel breakfast?
Well, what if I just get the first pick straight up?
No, sorry. What was your top pick? Sorry.
Well, I tried to take Omelet Station where they cook you the omelet, and I was denied
ridiculous.
That.
Okay.
I don't think it's ridiculous, but I was denied that, so I took Waffle. I took Waffle Machine.
Yeah. Waffle is a great pick.
No, that's
at
not
the
my
spot in the draft,
one.
it was the best pick.
Okay.
I think Coffee and Bacon went 1 and 2 overall.
Preston took Coffee 1, which was insane. And then Charlie took Waffle, at 3, which probably should have been the number 1 pick, honestly.
Anyway, you can check it out, and you can let me know if you thought I won. I think I clearly won, but
Charlie
I also
always
have my own personal breakfast. No, the first time I was on the show, I did not pick my own team as the
That's true. Thanksgiving was a rough one.
So let's decide who had the best overall draft. Both combined. Who's got the best team going into the season?
Boy, it's so hard. I think I have the safest team, I think. So I think me being the best kind of depends on you guys not hitting enough on your swings. And that makes it really hard for me to determine who is best here.
I pick you, Charlie. I think that your upside in FPO, I get that I'm relying on Kristen Tatar, but Katrina, Valerie, Evelina, Haley, Holland. It wouldn't shock me if all 5 of those had a win this season. 3 of them did. 3 of them did, and 2 of them had multi. So plus the Ricky, Calvin, Simon. I mean, you literally have 6 multi-elite series major winners from last season on your roster, and that's a lot. So I picked Charlie. That's my personal vote. I think there is some.
I'm going against the trend too. Like everybody's like, "Oh, Evelina's a horrible putter. She's never going to do anything." But well, I don't know. And everyone's like, "Oh, Simon's going to have a way worse year. There's no way that he plays it like this again." Well, I mean, he's still like the most talented player that's ever been on the earth to throw a frisbee. So we'll see. We'll see. I think I agree that with the assessment that Daniel's team is going to be solid.
Yes.
It's going to be solid. And the question is, are more volatile teams going to be able to take out Daniel's chances?
I don't think Dan will finish third.
No. And I will say, I think if Paul and Paige, if Paul gets a couple more wins, and how close is he to getting a couple more wins last year than he ended up finishing with?
I think Paul, here's my one take on Paul, though. He's not playing enough this season. He's only playing 8 events exactly.
That's true. That is true. He's only going to play the 8 Elite Series. That's true.
Yeah. And so 8 Elite Series with the majors. I mean, don't get me wrong. He still probably is going to get a couple wins, but I just don't see like that is Paul's upside right now is what he did last season is what it feels like to me. But anyway.
That's fair. If I had to pick it, I want to pick Josh's team so bad, and then I see Nico LaCastro.
It's just that
as the 9th.
There's
pick,
an anchor at the bottom of the team. Josh, you didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do it. It wasn't really like your hand was forced.
It's funny because like that's actually not the pick that I'm sick to my stomach about. It's like the Kevin Jones Isaac Robinson combo that I'm like, ugh. Yeah. Like those two.
It is not beyond the realm of possibility that Kevin Jones has a really nice bounce back year this year.
And that's kind of,
And Isaac is so good. I mean.
Yeah. I like Isaac a lot.
When you got Paul coming out and saying nobody was going to beat Isaac Robinson.
And that's, that's
the
greatest compliment on earth, I think, there.
Yeah.
But that Nico, oh man, that could be a real anchor for you.
You know what? Let's see. Over, under. So we've got 15 MPO players here. At the end of the season, we're just going to stack all 15 of them up based on Pro Tour standings. Okay. Over, under, Nico, 11.5.
On the list?
On the list.
Easy under.
I got to take the under. As in number
you think he finishes
12th or worse.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you got to take the under.
11.5. So he needs to beat out 4 players. Anthony Barella, Corey Ellis, Joel Freeman. That's when I get a little bit nervous. Maybe Isaac or Kevin. Like, there's a chance. I'm taking it. I'll take the over.
Chance.
Give it to me. He's going to finish at least 11th on this list.
Josh is so bullish. He's like, he's going to be the 11th best player.
I'm showing up with a Nico stopwatch around my neck when we do the fill-in pod with Dan.
I love that.
All right. Well, this was fun. Dan, thanks for coming on, and thanks again for filling in for me next week.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is a blast.
All right, that is going to do it for this edition of The Upshot. We'll be back Thursday with your All-Star Weekend preview show. Don't miss it. We'll talk to you then.